Aside from the most exciting actress in the show being a supporting actress, Rosario Dawson, and the obvious cliffhanger bait at the end of the series, its lackluster writing and fight scenes for the Iron Fist series was only the beginning of its failure for me.
Did honest, you can't expect growth if you don't learn what your flaw is.
Going into the character casting, I just want to say I didn't care about his race and didn't even expect him to be Asian given the little background I know on Iron Fist. I expected him to be a fun-loving and sarcastic but stern white dude and care more about his ability to sell his role than I did his ethnicity. Not the dude who played Danny Rand embodied at all. So anyway, I've noticed that each different Marvel series in Netflix is focused on targeting a specific audience whom can identify with their main character. Luke Cage was obviously more for the black audience, Jessica Jones the feminist audience, etc. Now it seems the main character for Iron Fist was supposed to attract the classic liberal crowd with a billionaire turned philanthropist rallying against corporatism and fighting the evil it brings. Instead, he ended up looking like a SJW who finally had gotten what they dreamed of, which is billions of dollars and a successful company without working for it, only to destroy it in the good it's doing. He seemed like a self-righteous crybaby throwing a hissy fit and destroying a perfectly good business, doing great work and making a shitload of money in the process. Every American's dream, if we're being honest. The only reason the rich are hated in America is because people envy their lives and ability to have more control over it. Not necessarily because they're all evil and self-centered. Then you actually have this self-absorbed, lost, libtard, hippie-looking nigga on a path to destroy the entire world that he's detached from's way of doing things to please his ego of being the Iron Fist. He had a terrible time controlling his temper and constantly used violence to solve issues until it was time to kill someone, most times with people who definitely deserve to be killed in my opinion. Death occurs often in the show, so it makes no sense to me for him to spare obviously evil people's lives when their henchmen's dying and all kinds of others are being hurt around him that seems to be irrelevant. It was also obvious that he was battling his mommy and daddy issues, which seemed to be a common thing amongst the main characters. His character just seemed all over the place in his logic and motivation, so I found it hard to connect with him and his path on the show. Instead of rooting for him, I found myself hoping he'd fail and learn that the way to make this world a better place to thrive and defeat corporatocracy isn't to destroy capitalism and to go a different route. The constant need to bring up the past seemed to be the main problem the main character had, and even the antagonist had the power of continuously coming back to life and being tied to his past actually. I figured he'd be a lot more centered or in control of his emotions, not to allow those things to affect his quote-unquote chi, and to have more foresight, judging by what seems to be his common character traits of meditation and being trained by monks. Overall, the character casting just didn't capture that, or me, and that's mainly what made the series fail for me. Sometimes decent writing can be made up with strong performances by actors, but this didn't sell the role enough for me to want to see the actor grow and continue on to be part of the Defenders.
Ignorance is the new pollution. I think it's time for a revolution.
Alright, so basically as I stated previously, I was hoping for a good show that tackles current issues from the more classic liberal standpoint, since it seemed to be that type of show from the previews, and also a common theme in the Marvel writing in Netflix. I don't consider myself a libertarian per se, but I can understand some of their common beliefs such as small government and more freedom of the individual. Instead, they stuck to a more politically correct and easy to swallow script, not deviating from pop culture and staying in the safe zone the more current liberal influence over media has created for their ideas. I was expecting writing that would point out the illegitimacy of the overreach of government and its need to be more limited to allow people more freedom of choice, given the Iron Fist more laid back and self-controlled approach to things, but this seemed to be more extreme left, getting more into the socialist ideology of government being the right choice and rallying against capitalism even if it's benefiting millions of people. It focused less on creative ways to shed light on real situations that people can relate to and take sides on in a more concise way of good and evil, like in Luke Cage with the gun violence in Harlem. Nobody can contest that. But it focused more on writing a storyline that just has a protagonist and antagonist going head to head, even if what they're fighting over isn't perceived or accepted as a trouble to society by the audience. For instance, the drug market. His company, which seemed to have a history of success in technology to make the world better, came up with a new drug that would save millions of lives, according to the show. Danny Rand destroyed his company's way of trying to make a profit from the drug by selling at cost, even though it cost hundreds of millions of dollars to develop and would continue to cost money to develop more research and make more strides towards a better drug. He did this on a whim, having no previous knowledge of business or how to be a CEO or even a majority shareholder in a company. This seemed well-intentioned, information, but anybody who knows the slightest about business knows to develop any new technology, whether it be medicine or otherwise, takes money to build and a profit to continue making and reach its full potential. Just like when people automatically jumped on Martin Shkreli, peace be to God, from price gouging without understanding his purpose for raising prices on insurance companies buying the drug to produce a better drug that doesn't do as much damage to the body when taken, and continue more research to make better drugs or cures. Martin also gave the drug away for free to people who couldn't afford it, but of course the media failed to mention that and just jumped on the motherfucker. But anyway, getting off topic. Danny also tried to stop a much better alternative to the current opium addiction sweeping the city, which strongly parallels a problem we face in reality as Americans. They had a great opportunity to show how to really deal with the epidemic and fight off real problems people face with drugs and dependency, as well as how the legal drug business actually stifles growth and medical advances through government overreach and regulations and fines. But instead, they took the usual war on drugs approach. The drug was a synthetic heroin that not only was 100% pure, but also inhibited the users from developing a tolerance, which is what leads to more use, causing the financial and mental burden. It came in multiple forms and didn't need to be shot up to be ingested in the bloodstream. This would actually save countless lives and help people who actually need the drug to continue using it without the mess it causes in their life. They also no longer had a need for poppy seed to make opium since it was synthesized, so we also had no need to occupy foreign soil with soldiers for the plant. Of course, they threw in a billionaire drug addict, I guess thinking this would drive home the point of the opium addiction, but the hand had a cure for withdrawals of the drug. So any withdrawals one might still suffer from the drug can easily be cured. The writers of this story seem to miss the failure of the war on drugs and the epidemic of opium that we don't seem to be changing or even curbing by making it harder to obtain or attacking people for using the drug. This alone made me not only resent the main character for his blindness in morality and good principles, but also his judgmental tone throughout the series that makes what I thought would be the core audience of the show, young adults 18 to 35, disconnect from him in his so-called journey to being a hero and saving people from themselves. He's acting like the hand he's trying to destroy, if you ask me, which is the government. Had they made the character more aware and in tune with the people and what's necessary to make the issues lose their stronghold in the community, I feel like people would have understood his purpose more. Instead of destroying his company, he should have done things to make it focus more on making it easier for others to have access and change the way we depend on large corporations and government to come up with ideas and solve problems. The temper tantrums got old quick, along with his lover's need to prove herself because she's a woman. The quote-unquote empowered female characters are becoming more mundane and obvious in their intent, but she wasn't all that bad in her role and did a pretty well job displaying her fighting skills. I can tell she was casted more for her looks and presence on the camera though. Another thing I felt they dropped the ball on that would have captured the audience and drove home the series to make it more exciting for years to come was the fucking fight with the dragon. Duh. They could have went much further with the introduction of this character, because anyone who reads the basic background of Iron Fist, which they will if they watch the show, will know he fought a dragon to gain his Iron Fist powers. They could have chose to kill off the Undying Dragon any way they wanted to, and the fans would not have faulted them for it, especially seeing how much they changed how Danny got to the monastery in the first place. All they did was show his eyes in the last episode, which was just a teaser and was kind of pointless in making the scene make sense. One thing that's starting to annoy me about some shows is they write only to leave a cliffhanger to draw you to the next show or season. The creative process of capturing the audience without needing to rely on the cliffhanger to bring them back to watch another episode is missed since we've encountered shows like Breaking Bad. It's not to say cliffhangers aren't almost necessary to write a good show, but shows are making it more obvious they're focused on how they can sell the show. They basically teased us with a dragon fight after the entire first season of this guy basically lacking any purpose or showing any reason of being needed in his city to complement the heroes already there, besides his money. I feel like they missed the mark and failed on bringing the classic liberal ideas to the forefront in a superhero I feel like would have been perfect for doing that for them. Overall, the show just gave me the impression it was rushed and just a filler to lead to the Defenders and focus more on that, instead of writing for this show and building the characters up more so we can relate to them. The show has some decent fight scenes towards the end, and I can't say any actor or actress was bad, except that the main character just wasn't who I thought he'd be personality wise. The guy's still a good actor in his own right though, and I hope that he finds his groove and comes back stronger if they have a season 2, man. This is Rev Outlier, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch my channel.
The time has come.